Anthony Melchiori, it's another week, and I'm excited to be back online with you.
Monday Fun Day.
Monday Fun Day!
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. All right. Anthony, so great to see you, my friend. How was your weekend? Mine was a lot of fun.
Great to be seen. It was fun. It was good. A lot going on. It was somewhat relaxing one day, and one day was all work. So, What did you do?
Well, we did some chores around the house, and we had something very exciting happen. Not only did the windows in my garage break, and I've got to replace those, but we almost had a big fire from my washing machine. It started sparking like crazy. Not the machine itself, but like where it connects to the copper piping and stuff like that coming out of the walls.
Were you in Texas?
I know, right? I don't know what's going on here, dude. That's the thing about home ownership. Like every single time you think you got to figure it out, something else goes.
Yeah, Friday night at 1 a.m. You reminded me, 1 a.m. I was in the boiler room with a guy I have never worked with before, a plumber that I found, a 24-hour, and he came in. That was scary, but he was great. He fixed my heater, and I went from 50 degrees to back to a nice toasty 70. So yeah, I had a little problem too. But what happened to your windows? What happened? Why did you break your windows?
I don't know what happened. They're just really old, and something happened. I don't know. Something must have hit it in the storms that we've been having. I don't know what's going on. So I got to replace those. But the quote we got to replace 2 windows was almost $3,000. I think somebody's on crack.
Well, it depends on what kind of windows.
It's the garage. Doesn't have to be the best windows of all time. I'll put up a piece of plywood. I don't care. But anyway, I think that each and every one of you out there should care about. That is the good folks over at Best Buy, because you know by now, especially if you're an Avenger client, they can deliver turnkey solutions scalable to meet any project of any size that you guys had. And remember that Avenger clients and customers see special negotiated pricing up front, and every dollar you spend with them counts towards your Avenger spend, including appliances, computing technology, and of course, hospitality, TV and installation, and more. Check them out at bestbuy.com/hospitality. Now, Anthony, one of the other things we've been talking about is we got to get everybody here to go over to Bright Support, because it's really frustrating me that so many of our listeners are leaving money on the table, paying property taxes they needn't be paying, because you know how it is. They didn't make as much money last year. They need to save on taxes this year. That's why we're encouraging everybody to book their free 30-minute consultation with the good folks over at Bright Support. Find them at brightsupport.net/hotels, or give them a call at 833-411-2233. And of course, tell them No Vacancy sent you. And Anthony, I'm looking forward to Thursday shows, because we're going to have HIT over here. And I know you like their technology, right?
Yes, sir, we do. And and you don't have to negotiate prices. I love the word negotiated.
Yeah, what can I tell you? It is Monday here. And if you want, no negotiating, unless, of course, you have something against goats, then you're going to say no goat at all. So on Thursday, Peter LaFranchi, HIT's Senior Vice President of Hospitality Construction, is joining us for a great show to talk to us about the current industry environment. Right. He's going to share this great technology they have that they're using on all projects to help reduce costs and deliver projects.
And I'm actually going to have my business partners on watching too, because we're probably going to buy their software. I just bought my project manager through it, and he just said really nice things about it. And you'll understand if you're building anything, or if you're about to build a hotel. Basically, they have a software to show you every step of the way where the project is. And again, I don't want to give it away because I really can't really speak to it intelligently yet. But when you see it, it will blow your brains out. If you're a builder, you will see this, and it will be your new favorite toy.
Right, absolutely. So stick around for that on Thursday. You guys are not going to regret it. All right, today we got 2 great interviews for you. We're going to talk to Mr. Tarun Patel. He's a hotel owner, and you might also know him as a former chair of the AAHOA organization. Let's bring him on right now, and then in a second, then right after that, we're going to have Mr. Chris Guimbellot. He is the CEO, President of Hospitality International. Big interview day. Tarun, so great to see you, my friend. I think it's been at least a year now since I've got to see you in person. This not being on the road thing is killing me.
I know, it's been the same. I'm tired of looking at people in a 2-dimensional way. I want to see them in 4 dimensions.
Right? I like. Yeah. What is the 4th dimension for seeing people in real time?
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna give
behind
you
us.
a hug. At least we can hug with no mask.
Well, we could do a little bit of group hugging there. Yeah.
Right. All right. So Tarun, I've been reporting on this because I think it's such a great story, and I was hearing bubblings of this from other hoteliers out there. But you're the one who pulled the trigger. You've told your insurance company enough already. Go. Let's get on with this. Why are you denying our coverage? Why aren't you paying us back for the insurance that we purchased? And of course, we're talking about business interruption insurance and insurance companies' general proclivity to not want to ever pay anything out. Tarun, what is the exact situation that you found yourself in and why you decided to sue Sequoia? Yes, Andy.
Anybody that's listening to this that owns a hotel or restaurant, any business, please get a friend to watch the show because we're about to get a lesson. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you. So, when I bought my insurance, I paid extra actually for business interruption coverage. And back when we were shut down in California, we were asked to shut down due to various county and government rules. I went in and filed a claim. And unfortunately, I have not heard back yet. And that was the challenge. It wasn't even in the sense that I think I have coverage, and I know I paid for it. And I haven't even had a response back from my insurance company on that. So we waited and after a while, but we're still struggling going through this. As I'm not alone in this situation. There's a lot of small businesses, a lot of small hotel owners, family-owned hotel owners that are struggling through this process. And I still think I have coverage, but I haven't necessarily heard back from them. So with advice of counsel, we went ahead and filed the case just to get some level of response back for them. And hopefully the courts will agree that we do have coverage here, and then the insurance company should pay for it.
So they're just completely ignoring the situation, not getting back to you, not even saying, hey, we're not going to pay out.
Yeah, I mean, that's, from what I understand, that's a strategy. There's multiple ways to handle this. But in my situation, I haven't even heard back. So I don't even know what they're thinking. So I basically had to, I'm sort of forcing their hand in this situation to respond back, and it's being done through the courts.
Wow. So what do you expect for them to do? What kind of protections do you believe that you signed up for, and what legal basis do you have, do you believe, based on your conversations with your attorneys, that you're in a good position here?
Well, I mean, to keep it simple, I want them to honor their agreement. I procured business interruption insurance. My business was interrupted, and so now it's time for them to honor their commitment, plain and simple. And from a legality perspective, I'm not going to get into too much into that, because that's why we hire. I think I have really good representation behind this, but from the legal perspective, that's irrelevant to me one way or the other. I just think they need to honor their commitment. This is a family-run business. We live paycheck to paycheck. And unfortunately, in this situation, in most family businesses, we don't get a paycheck. It's the profits that we earn from our businesses that pay our day-to-day lives. And if my business is interrupted, I still have to make my other payments for everything. So it's been a real challenge. And if we don't get coverage on something like this, some of these businesses are at the point, or they will be pretty close to not being able to operate anymore because they just don't have this lifeline.
So what happens when, what happens with any support you got from the government? Can you get both?
Yeah, I mean, those are independent things, because any support I got, it took care of. There was some specific packages to take care of lenders, specific packages to take care of our employees, our staff, which is very important for us, for sure. But there was nothing to take care of the owners of the business. And that's why we procure business interruption insurance. That's why we procure insurance in general. And we pay our premiums and do all that just to make sure that we ourselves are covered in any sort of loss time frame.
So what's been their comeback? What's been their why they're not paying it? We've heard a lot of different stories, but what are you hearing?
Well, I think for my specific case, I don't know why they haven't responded back to my case. What I'm reading in the trade is various sort of situations here back and forth. That's just conjecture on my part, what I understand. But for me specifically, they have not responded back to my claim.
But when lawsuits like this, what happens is usually the people with more money to pay lawyers win. And then people like you start to get exhausted with paying your legal fees, so you give up. So how do you protect yourself from that to make sure that you go, to the mattresses to get this done?
Well, I mean, in that situation, I think we have a good case. I think that we've got a good situation. We're just going to continue to do this. I haven't got to that point yet, right? But I think for now, I want to start this process to create some awareness around that this is an option. I think a lot of small business owners think they don't have an option, and I think that's incorrect. We have to fight for what we think is appropriate for us. And as I said, in this situation, we would make sure we would take care of our insurance bills, we take care of our mortgage bills, we take care of all of our obligations, in the hopes that they would honor their commitment in making sure that if something should happen to us, they honor that. In this situation, it has not been honored, and that's what I'm trying to force them to do. And hopefully, the courts will see it that way moving forward.
Yeah. Well, you say, is there anybody else that you know, big or small, doing this? I'd imagine a lot of people are doing it.
Yeah, I mean, look, when this first came out, when the pandemic was first, when we first had to go through it, and some of these shutdowns and so forth happened, there were a lot of large names here in California, restaurants, things like that. French Laundry is one of the ones I would mention because they're a big profile name. They went ahead and filed something like this. I'm not sure where that's at, but I think it's happening. Maybe it's not happening as much as we would hope it would, or maybe it's happening, we just don't know about it, right? So that's that situation. But if I look at my specific situation, once again, I've honored my side of the commitment. I want my insurance company to honor their side of their commitment.
And right now, how are things looking just from a business perspective going forward now that the vaccine's coming out, and it looks like we may have some brighter days ahead of us? How does it look for your business in general?
Moving forward, we're still okay. I mean, it's a slow period of time right now. I'm still trying to cover some of the expenses that I had to incur last year, right? So it's not a good situation. We're still going through that. Hopefully, we're fairly optimistic that the market will continue to rebound a little bit, but we don't know what's going to happen next. We don't know what's going to happen as far as if there's any other sort of mandated shutdowns, if there's any sort of restrictions. I worry about COVID tests to come into the state, or different level regulations that might impact the free-flowing enterprise that happens in California.
And yeah, right. And specifically because you're in California, you may be affected much more than somebody is in Florida, for example. We've all been following the differences between those states. Yeah, no, absolutely. So some of the states have been a little bit have dealt with this differently. But in California, we were shut down for 3 or 4 months last year. And again, in December, they've limited the amount of travel. They've limited. It's just it compounds itself from that perspective. And so I think moving forward, I have to be optimistic because I'm an entrepreneur. That's what we need to do. But I'm also realistic now that there's going to be continuing challenges with that until we get to a point where there's some level of normalcy, if there ever will be.
So right. So in June, when everybody said that we were going to flatten the curve and get back to normal, that didn't happen.
yeah. I think it was an inverse sort of curve. To be quite honest.
Rowan Patel says most insurance policies have virus clauses that they do not cover, but a lot also do. Sir, they say that they cover these things, but then they say, well, we didn't mean that thing. At least that's what I've seen.
That's a good point. What does the legalese say about that?
From what I understand, not everybody, there are some insurance policies that have very specific language based in there. I think that was driven by the last sort of scare we had from that. But from now, some of these policies don't. And so I think that's where I ask, if you're a small business owner and you have an insurance policy and you're struggling, I wouldn't necessarily think you're going to be excluded. I would go look, seek counsel, go out and talk to somebody, understand what your process is, understand what's in your policy, and see whether or not there's relief that you could apply for.
Good news is attorney Paula Argento says that she's seen some insurance quick to respond when they believe they can deny. So the fact that they're not saying anything might actually say something. That's an interesting point of view.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, that's what I've heard. That's a strategy sometimes, and they just want to, they're looking for entrepreneurs just to say, okay, fine, or business owners or their customers to say, fine, we'll just kind of move on and we'll wait. Back to what Anthony mentioned earlier about sticking through this. But we've had to weather, the worst sort of environment in over 100 years for us, right? And so we should be able to weather through something like this because, as I said, we did our part in this. We made sure we were current with our premiums. We make sure we continue to purchase these things, and now it's time for those people to come back and honor their commitments back to
listen,
us.
I'm not an insurance adjuster. I don't understand all the formulas of insurance, obviously. However, I do understand that during these times that are very emotional, that every single one of us will remember to the day we die. We've all been brought to our knees at some point. That this is an opportunity for insurance companies to really kind of stand up and show that you want to stay with us through thick and thin, because there's a lot of insurance companies, that people would never, ever purchase again. Even at the end, if they did the right thing after fighting, like this is not the time to fight. Like when you go to your grandma's house on a Sunday after a really stressful week, like you just want grandma to take care of you. Like we just need the insurance companies to do the right thing so we can get back to paying their premiums.
No, I absolutely, yeah. I mean, unfortunately, that's not stopping because we're all going to buy our insurance premiums no matter what, right?
Yeah,
so that's not.
You might buy from someplace else.
We might, but at the end of the day, we're going to still go through that process. We have to. That's sort of the things we have. But I'm afraid that some of these businesses will no longer be there to pay those premiums, right? That's the bigger problem there.
Yeah.
The second thing is this, what I've taken as an action. If it's from a legal perspective is one approach, but we need to combine that with some pressure through legislation or through our legislators to put pressure on making sure there's the right process and put in place here, because this is part of an overall COVID-19 response plan. As I said, we were taken care of from a financing perspective. Our banks were paid, our staff and associates were taken care of, but this particular piece has not been addressed, and hopefully, if there's more visibility in situations like this, it might prompt some action from them as well. But as far as I'm concerned for now, I think I have a very good case here. I think I've got a situation, and as I said, I think I'm represented by some really sound legal minds who are going to get this thing through for me, and I hope the courts agree.
Well, Glenn took a law class in college, so you may want to hire him.
Well, I will hire him for many things because I know he's got the fight and the spunk to make this thing happen. So,
but my dad was an attorney.
Oh, you stayed at the Holiday Express yesterday? Is that what it was?
I think that's to Anthony. That's one of his favorite brands. Tarun, any final thoughts before we let you go, sir?
No, I would just want to reiterate. I think that if anybody feels that they're in a situation where they don't have something, I would not think that way. I would think that there's opportunities and options for them. They should reach out to people and understand what's going on from there. And I think we all have to do this thing together. We are, as the lodging industry, have shown how resilient we are and how collective we are. And I think we as an industry together need to unite on this one deal when it comes to making sure that the insurance companies honor their commitments back to us.
Yep, excellent. Sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Tarun. Keep us posted.
Thank you for having me.
Back on as new break.
I will do so. Good seeing you guys.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Cocktail at an event.
Typically, we see each other walking through hallways of hotels and wave.
Right? Yeah, 6 feet away, something like that. Yep.
That's funny, Anthony, because on a Friday night audit last week, we were making some jokes, and I was talking about how after you say hello to someone at a conference, and you have permission to pretend you don't see that person again, just ignore it as you walk back and forth to the conference. All right, so I want everybody to be well aware that on March 1st, we've got a great job fair. The number one job fair we did, so successful, we've got to do a second one. So that's going to be coming up on March 1st. I would love for you guys all to participate in that. We're going to have some great companies involved. Share it. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to bring on our next guest. Anthony, you ready for our next guest over here? He's ready. I love seeing that kind of.
Born ready.
All right, here we go. Chris Guimbellot. He is the president, CEO of Hospitality International. You might know those brands that they have: Red Carpet Inn, Scottish Inns, Master Host Inns, Downtowner Inns, and of course, Passport Inn. And I am standing in front of one of your great hotels up there in Lake George. Chris, so great to see you, my friend.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for having me on, Glenn. Of course, we met back in 2019 at our conference in Atlantic City. And Anthony, your work speaks for itself, man.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, yeah. I got the honor of speaking to their group down in Atlantic City at the Golden Nugget. I love that particular property. Such a great hotel. Chris, you're sounding a little bit like your sound is not adjusted right. If you could check the mic settings while we start this off to make sure that you're going through the right source, that'd be really helpful.
So
Would it help if I speak up more?
It's just you sound a little bit echoey, like you're in a bank with all that marble around.
So Glenn, I love that property behind you, and I really haven't been to Lake George to stay, but everybody I know that goes there absolutely loves it.
Really? I didn't know that.
I'm sorry to jump in, but that property, by the way, is in one of the most premier locations in Lake George. I know that area very, very well. It's in a great location.
Chris, I did not know that about that property.
Yeah, absolutely. It's in a wonderful location. It's owned by Hanif Kamani. He's one of our multiple property owners with the brand. So, it's a fantastic property.
Yep. All right. So we're still having a little bit of trouble with the mic. What I'm going to do over here on my end, don't kill yourself. Let me pull up your volume over here, and hopefully that'll help as well. Yes, Michael, the job fair is going to be really great. Looking forward to having that done on March 1st. So, Chris, you've taken a more active role in the last 6-8 months or so, or has it already been over a year?
September 1st of 20.
All right, September 1st. So now you're officially president and CEO instead of kind of having 1 foot inside, 1 foot outside. Tell me a little bit about the company and where you're at today, and then we can talk about your long-term plans.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I started my career with hospitality after graduating college. I was there between 2000 and 2010. I actually got my start in hotels from just a young age. I was actually bussing tables in a hotel that my family owned. And then, of course, my dad tried to put me behind the front desk to check in the guests. And then, of course, the general manager would always come along and scurry me off. So she eventually settled on allowing me to bus tables. And basically, I've had the bug ever since. Been in hospitality my entire career. Came back to hospitality last year. Was gone for about 10 years, but about halfway through that, came back and did a little bit of consulting with the company. Was named to the board of directors. Worked with the previous president and had a lot of fun. And then eventually, when it was time for him to step down, they nominated me, and I took the job over with great gusto. And I'm so happy to be back. I think we're in a really great position. And on a really good trajectory moving ahead. We've made a few changes in the last couple of years to prepare us for that, and I look forward to talking about those.
Yeah, you are in a really good. I think you are in a really good position here because these are brands that people know. They might not be too familiar with, but it's not like when you say the names that they're not familiar with it. I, for one, remember driving around the country, in the New England, Northeast area, or in California, for example, on those road trips as a kid. And I remember seeing all those brands and being, "Oh, I wonder what that's all about,"
And those road trips and those unique brands, really, those are the ones that you show on your fireplace, your family's picture. Those are those brands and those kind of hotels that just have, you go to every year after year after year. You stay in the same room, and it's part of your family. The hotel becomes part of your family. I mean, that hotel behind Glenn, it looks like, I would imagine your repeat business there is probably at 50%, at least.
I would think that there's no doubt. Lake George is a fantastic place. Families visit there every year on summer vacation, and there's no doubt that many of them stay in the same place every time.
Funny, producer Dave stayed behind the scenes. He goes to Lake George every single year. I love Lake George. When I was a wee little one, I like going to Storybook USA. I think it's now a Six Flags park or something like that.
Yeah.
That was great memories. But you seem to have you're in a good position right now. You're with the brand that has some recognition that I feel has a lot of runway for you, especially as we're entering a period of this great reset that we're in right now, where I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for a lot of conversion opportunities out there. Sorry to use that same word twice. What is the state of how you see things, Chris, and where do you think you're going to be able to leverage advantage and get more properties in your system? And I should say you added, 18 this past year, which is terrific for a relatively small company compared to the behemoths.
Wow, it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And what I'll say is that what happened is when COVID hit, obviously it decimated our industry, and a lot of the individual hotels and even some of the ones with other chains, they simply were a little bit afraid to change brands at that time, so they simply didn't. So in that regard, a lot of sales kind of kicked down and everything. But what we saw toward late Q3 and early Q4 is that mindset started to shift a little bit. Maybe it was that people were thinking we were coming out of COVID, or maybe they were simply sick and tired of their brand, or they just needed the type of help that we could provide. We started to see an uptick in sales toward the end of the year, and that uptick has continued into 2021, and I think we're doing fantastic. I'm shooting for a 15% growth rate this year, and I think that we're going to hit it. We sowed a lot of seeds last year, working with hotels who weren't ready to make the switch, but just starting to help them over the phone any way that we could, just knowing that when they were ready to make a switch, they would give us a call. And those seeds are starting to grow at this point.
Excellent. So what type of owner are you finding that you're engaging with most? What types of properties? What is their mindset right now about why you feel that they're ready to make a change and give you that opportunity?
What's interesting, just looking out over the industry, no one can argue that there's been a ton of consolidation, right? And it's interesting that once these brands consolidate, they have economies of scale going. So you would think with it, where they can cut costs in other corners like finance and accounting and whatnot, they would have more to spend on customer service and serving their franchisees. Well, we haven't seen that happen with some of the other brands. And then, of course, with COVID, so many of them decided to cut a lot of staff. We cut 0 franchisee-facing staff, and we think now more than ever, as other brands are cutting, our value proposition and our strategic advantage is the fact that we provide more direct, in-person, hand-in-hand, one-on-one service than a lot of the other chains. And I think that message resonates with these guys because, especially in our sector, in the limited select service sector, the bottom line is a lot of these franchisees sign on board for personalized assistance. A lot of the brands aren't giving them that assistance. Yeah, we try to be there for them.
But you know what? And I love that. And I think that's the trend. I think coming out of this, you're seeing it. And that's kind of part of my company does. So I get it. And I'm in the trenches. Matter of fact, I was supposed to go to St. Petersburg this weekend, but I got iced in to help an owner buy a hotel. So I want to give that personalized service. It's what my company does. With that said, it's expensive when you have a lot of hotels, and one of the things you're trying not to do is bring on regional vice presidents and all these people, because you're just and we all know the margins in these hotels. We all know the margins that management companies make. How do you really separate yourself and really, because I find it hard in my own company where it's like sometimes I'm like, okay, we have enough product, that's it, I can't do anymore, because if I do more, we're going to lose money. I mean, if because we have to hire 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 more people. So that's the problem. That's why a lot of the smaller brands and smaller companies really haven't figured it out. What makes you guys different?
Well, I think it's a perfect example that you were talking about how you were supposed to go down to Florida this weekend. And the bottom line is that if you have to travel to all of them all of the time, there's no economies of scale going or anything like that. One of the things that before COVID, we were traveling to all of them every year, not only doing the inspection, but instead of just walking in and inspecting the hotel, we were doing marketing with them and helping them source local business and helping them with rate parity and rate management and things like that. You're right, Anthony, it takes time, takes a lot of effort, costs a lot of money. One of the interesting things that COVID did is it kept our people at home. And as soon as they're stuck at home, when they're not traveling, what do they have more time to do? And that's make calls to the franchisees. So what we found is our service levels actually increased during COVID. It's something that I thought would have been the reverse, because I'm a people person just like you. I would have thought that they would really need to be in with the franchisees in person. But we found that they can establish good relationships over the phone. And I have to say, I've heard more good things about our AMP program in the last year than I have in the years previous. And that's a side effect of COVID, and it's a pretty welcome one, actually.
It's interesting because there's a brand, I don't know if all of them gone to, but I know one brand's gone to inspections virtually. Like they make the general manager walk around virtually. And you know what? Again, I can't wait to travel, and I'm traveling soon, but I get a lot of work done this way. I mean, I literally think I was on 3 Zooms in my entire life, and now I'm on 3 Zooms in an hour, and I'm getting so much accomplished. And I just can't tell you how much I'm getting accomplished. And so, unfortunately, nobody wants to go to conventions on Zoom. Nobody wants to have big meetings on Zoom. But people do want to have these micro meetings and these really important conversations. And we can do, like, I would love to have a general manager. I can talk to every single general manager every day, or at least once a week easily, and still ask them to show me their hotel. And I don't have to go where they're telling me to go. I can say randomly, like if I was there, go to 308 and then show me you're walking to 308. Don't just show me the rooms you want to show me. So as long as you're being realistic and you're being direct with the teams, you can manage the teams from Zoom to some perspective. So I agree with you. 6 months ago, I would have said you're full of something, but now I agree with you.
It's interesting that you mentioned the Zoom micro meetings. Is first of all, one of the things that I did when I took over is we use Microsoft Teams in the office for the staff, and we went to in-person live video meetings. Any call more than 3 people or more than 2 people, we do them all live. And what I found is that our relationships have gotten so good with just talking to the staff and everything, because you see where the person works and you see where they live, because everyone's working from home, and if they're growing their winter COVID beard or something like that. So it's really interesting, and I thought of it as a very good bonding experience. And you can kind of parlay that out to the hotels as well, because what we are doing is for all of the hotels that are coming online, we are in fact doing the virtual pre-inspections. And that involves, it's interesting because I was asking, the person in charge of it, I said, how do we do it? They said, we're just going to FaceTime them, or we're going to Zoom them, or we're going to Teams them, or whatever technology that they want to use. And we can do it with the cell phone, and it's no problem. So it still allows for some personal relationship building. Even our sales guys are starting to talk to prospects via FaceTime and Zoom. And it allows for a lot of that personal relationship building. And also it still allows us to do the things that we need to do. Make sure that, that room is clean. Make sure this is a property we want to admit into our system.
Now, because we're hoteliers at heart over here, and we love people getting out and travel, tell us why you need to travel again and why you think having face-to-face in person is going to be a good strategic advantage for you too when things really start to come back.
Well, I think we all need to support the travel industry. I think we all need to support the airline industry. I've been doing my part, whether I'm supposed to or not. I've traveled a little bit. But the bottom line is, I think you're finding that people need human personal touch. They need human connection. Whereas maybe parents were making sure their children stayed home. Now they're letting them go out and play and associate with other people. We're feeling cooped up. We're feeling pent up. And I think there's a lot of pent up demand. When you look at what's going to happen to the travel industry, I think that no one really knows. But the bottom line is, I think we would all agree that there's a lot of pent up demand because people are tired of staying home. So when it's time and when people feel more comfortable, I urge them to get out, to travel, to do the things they want to do, to take those family vacations whenever they feel comfortable.
You have the Miami mindset.
There is
no COVID in Miami.
I was actually in Miami a few weeks ago, and I didn't dine out or anything, but it was almost like nothing is happening down there. So, to each his own, I guess.
Listen, I have 2 friends. Actually, I'm going to be in meetings with them shortly. And one is in Tampa, and they're doing record numbers. They just opened 2 brand new restaurants, and they can't keep up with the demand. And another friend that opened something about a year ago, right before the pandemic, and he can't keep up with the demand. And he just told me he gets tested every week. He doesn't have the antibodies, and he doesn't have COVID. And I was like, then you have tiger blood. You and Charlie Sheen should hang out.
Oh, it cracks me up. I live in the Florida Panhandle, and it's almost like, this is a very resort destination kind of travel location as well. And I'm seeing, as we're getting closer to the summer, I'm seeing demand pick up a lot. I'm seeing more cars. There was traffic on the road Saturday when I went to get lunch. I mean, the bottom line is that at least in certain parts of the countries, Florida or whatever, people are starting to travel. And I think that's, overall, I think it's good as long as people take the appropriate precautions. Absolutely. What I'm seeing down here is I'm seeing, most people wearing masks, and I'm seeing most people being respectful of social distancing. So it's kind of like a mix here. And from what I understand, the rates, at least where I am, are not that high of infection. I get tested all the time. I'm also an active blood donor. And not only have I not had COVID, but I don't have the antibodies either.
Right. And so listen, my friend's wearing his mask, but he's around people not wearing a mask, and he hasn't got it. So thank God. And he's got a good blood type, apparently. But Glenn, what was that number we heard last week about small meetings actually outpacing this time last year?
Small meetings actually outpaced bigger meetings, and that was from our good friends over at Nolan. Let me see if I could go get those exact meetings. But the meetings, they increased in size from like 5 or 6 people. We're talking most meetings are smaller meetings. They're not the big giant meetings that we always talk about. They're in the 30s, 40 people sort of range, but they're increasing. They're more frequent, and there are more of them held this year than there was last year. So we'll take any good news. That's pretty good news, sets the things in the right direction for us. Chris, Penny Dulk says, Hospitality International is growing better and better every day with properties understanding the demands of guest experience and the personal support we offer our franchises. All right. That might be someone, an operative from me.
I think if I can
it sure looks like I did.
Yeah, we don't do free advertising here. One of the things that I think is really kind of a point, right? So let's look at where we're at. Vaccines are coming on. In New York, because of all the snow down or ice and everything around the country and in New York, really we haven't gotten the doses we were supposed to get this week. So you can't get an appointment, but it's going to get better. Okay, so you get the vaccines. People are getting vaccines. Right now, I think we vaccinated 36 million people in this country. You're getting people who are pent up. It's like, I'm wearing my mask and going to travel. Okay, then you're having that summer's coming in, United States. So not only in the, in Florida and in California, but everywhere. So everything is coming together. And I think this is the X factor. I think we're getting to the point where it's becoming the flu mentally, where people are vaccinated, we're traveling. I hate the fact that I have to worry about COVID, but you know what? I worry about my kids. I worry about paying my mortgage. I worry about the flu. I worry about my ingrown toenail. But now there's another thing I got to worry about. It's not now owning the toolbox. It's part of the toolbox, if that's a bad analogy. But you know what I'm saying? It's horrible to think of it that way. But I think people are just like, we ain't going back unless there's another strand that,
that's right.
But I think that's where we're at. And that's an interesting place to be.
Anthony, let me give you some numbers. According to NPR, based on numbers provided by the U.S. government, more than 63 million doses have been administered so far.
How many?
63 million, reaching 13.1% of the population. And we're doing about 1.8 million shots a day. So if this keeps up, we'll get to that first 100 days, 100 million vaccines.
Yeah, but Glenn, that number, it's a 2-dose vaccine. So that's not 64 million people vaccinated.
No, but it's 13.1% of the population, which I think is really the relevant number here.
Right, so which is the number. It's like 36, 37. I just want to be right, Glenn. That's it.
No, you are absolutely right. No matter what you say, you're right. Right, Chris? Thank you, Chris, for agreeing that Anthony is right.
How could I not?
It's really bad around these parts. All right. So,
but it's an interesting place, right? Think it's a really strange place to be because we thought in June it'd be gone. Oh, yeah. And now we're like, it's still here and it's still controlling our lives. But we're like, we're not putting it behind us, but we're like, we've got to live with it, unfortunately.
I mean, to be honest, the day-to-day grind is not that much worse than it normally is. I mean, there's a lot of changes. Offices are closed and, people aren't traveling as much and things like that. And you have to be cognizant of others. But if you think about it, like your day-to-day normal activities of going through life, right? If you're meeting online for work, you don't have to worry about it there. So then it's just when do you leave your house? When you go get groceries, things like that. Every time I jump in the elevator, I put on a mask. When I'm around others, I put on a mask. It's really, and I feel like I'm a smart husband insofar as I do what my wife tells me to do. When she says put on a mask, I put it on. And then when I see her put it on, I put it on as well. So
there's an inappropriate joke there somewhere, but also going to dinner and going to theater. And as we've been talking about on this podcast, America's not back to Broadway's back. That's it. When Broadway is back, that means everything's happening because these theaters were built 100 years ago. And, if you didn't have a best friend sitting next to you, when you sat down, you have a best friend when you leave because we're on top of each other. And when you're sitting there for your $75,000 popcorn, you're standing literally in somebody's, if they have bad breath or not. So it's when Broadway's back and they figure that out, and our friend Charlie Flateman is figuring that out as we speak. I think that's when America will feel better again.
All right, first of all, congratulations to YouTube viewer Paul Baccaria for getting his second dose of the vaccine. And congratulations to us here in New York State, because as of tomorrow, large venues could open up with limited capacity for concerts and sporting events and that sort of stuff. So that is very emotionally, I think, symbolic for us New Yorkers that we're heading in the right direction too. And I cannot wait for concerts to come back.
Yeah, it's exciting. And listen, we're getting there, and we're thank God. So Chris, how is this all affecting where you're at, and what's going on with your team, and what are you saying to your team? Because I'd imagine you had to furlough a lot of people. No,
like I said, we put no franchisee facing staff out of work. We did have a little bit in terms of layoffs, but it doesn't hurt customer service, period. Mm-hmm. And, I just want to be abundantly clear about that. But in terms of the team, a lot of our team is geographically spread out. So, we have people in the office in Atlanta, but a lot of people aren't. So what we did is we simply moved into the Microsoft Teams environment. We have a lot more calls just to make sure everyone's on the same page, but we respect everyone's time. I think the big issue is amongst our franchise development reps, our sales team, and our AMP team, right? Because they're typically traveling around to hotels. They're typically, looking for prospects or, working with the hotel owners we have. And then, of course, they simply can't travel, right? For months and months and months, they just, we were not allowing them to travel. At this point, what we started to do is basically say, if you feel comfortable traveling and the people you are traveling to feel comfortable having you travel to them, then by all means, you're more than welcome to do it. You don't have to. I don't want anyone to put themselves into situations they probably shouldn't. But because throughout a lot of this, you have to keep in mind the person who you're going to visit, right, and what they think. And we had a franchise development rep out in Texas, and essentially he had a hard time finding places to eat. He had a hard time finding places to go to the restroom. And when he got to properties, it was very difficult for him to talk to them. And, I think we learned a lot there. And so far as, even if things are getting better, we're not all the way there. We're not out of the woods yet. And business processes and things are going to be interrupted for the time being, for sure.
So how do you balance the needs to get back out there with the needs and desires of your individual employees and those potential franchisees? It's very easy. I mean, you said that everybody's got to feel comfortable. But as a CEO trying to get things going, how do you balance all of that to make sure people do feel comfortable, but you can really get on with it?
Well, listen, I have two responsibilities, right? To the franchisees and to the staff, right? And I love them both. And, I feel like my staff and my franchisees are sort of in the same boat, right? They want to remain cautious. They want to remain, COVID free. And as long as that's the case, then I want to allow them to make the choices that is suitable for them. In terms of the franchisees, like I mentioned before, when it comes to our relationships with our franchisees, our relationships, I would argue, are better than they were before COVID, simply because we have more activity, we communicate with them more, we can provide more help because we're not spending time actually traveling to them. So I don't actually see a problem. And not only that, it's very interesting. We've been able to sell during this, right? I mean, historically, you've had to go visit a property and go see things, and go talk to the owner and things like that. But COVID has allowed us to not have to go to a property. I mean, Anthony was talking about the virtual inspections. Those can be done without a problem. And then the relationship building, with FaceTime and things like that, it really hasn't been a problem. I still want my team back out on the road, but the bottom line is we're able to function and we're doing just fine with them at home at this point.
So essentially, it gives you another tool. So we got just a few minutes left before we have to wrap up the segment. So why not just tell us a little bit about each of your brands and who they appeal to? Because they average different size properties, and you have a different sort of owner for each of those. Yes.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So we have 5 brands. We have Red Carpet Inn, Scottish Inns, Master Host Inns, Downtowner Inn, and Passport Inn. So basically, Red Carpet is a little bit more than limited service. We're typically up in the Northeast. Scottish Inns would typically be down in the southeast where the footprint is for the most part. We like to expand those out. Scottish has typically been a little bit more of a limited service product. And then Downtowner and Passport are more equated with Scottish. There's not too many variations except for the location. Downtowner obviously being more located towards downtown. And then Master Host is really more of a resort destination type product. It has full service restaurant and bar. If you look at the Tiki behind you, that is a Master Host property. So that would be the differentiation between the brands.
No,
We're trying to grow them all.
I'm going to make a bad Glenn joke. At the Red Carpet Inn, do you have red roofs?
Only
I know of at least one that does.
yeah. Only if certain franchisees decide to move to.
Exactly.
No, but and it's really, listen, coming into the next couple of years, people are going to want to get to know their brand representatives in a real way. Listen, I love the big brands. I'm friends with a lot of the big brand people,
Right.
but we all know that they're running really fast and they're building really quickly, and there's a lot going on, and there's some hand holding definitely, and you have a lot of really competent people, but sometimes you want people to teach me the business, not only help me run my business, but teach me the business.
Yeah.
And when you're small enough like you are, but big enough to have plenty of brands to choose from, you can teach the owners the business.
Yeah. And one of the interesting things about us is we're privately held, right? So we don't have to worry about what Wall Street or analysts or stockbrokers or anything like that thinks. My goal is smart growth. I want to build a long-term value for this company, and I want to do it smartly, which means I don't want to take any property that wants to be a part of our system. I want properties that are located in great locations, that are high quality, and with management who wants to work with us to help their hotel and our company do better. And that's all that we're going to accept. And that's going to make us grow potentially a little bit slower, but I still think I can hit 15%. And I want to do it in a smart way.
Yeah, listen, one of the things that is really lost in our industry is brands teaching owners how to run hotels. Saying that we can run your hotel, there are owners that want to stay, away and say, just send me a check. That's fine. But these hotels that we're talking about, these people want to kind of learn their business. Now, you're a little afraid because by them learning their business, you may be out of a job, but I don't agree with that at all. I agree owners that know how to run a business are better owners, because how many times have you been in an owner meeting and you're speaking and they don't understand what you're saying, even though they're making believe they understand that market segmentation, the reason you can't use third party, the reason you have to use third party, like just that conversation is a conversation we've all spun around, the flagpole too many times, and they don't understand market segmentation and how that all works. So the more I educate our owners, the better we are.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. And you, if anyone, would know, the new marketing is basically says something to the effect of, hey, let me share what I know with you. And if you find what I have to say valuable, then you're going to come to me when you realize, wait, I can't do this by myself. And that's what we're trying to do now.
But the scary part is when the brands are trying to know the owners now feel empowered and they can do it by themselves. But the answer is, if you build the right relationships with them, they won't go somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we always have something that we can offer them. The story is never done. The education is never complete, right? I mean, even when you go to college, right, you're just starting in life and education. So I feel like we're always going to have something to help them, and we're always going to provide a service to them, and we're always going to continue to market the brand for them. And that said, that's going to keep the attrition rate low.
Yeah, and when I have those conversations and people go, "What else can you bring me?" I go, "I know Glenn," and that keeps the business.
Well, I'm going to say I know Anthony, and that'll keep the business.
Yeah, don't
I just need cool.
have a successful company, Chris.
All right. Well, Chris, great talking to you.
Anthony, Glenn, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
People reach out to you if they want to learn any more information about what you guys are up to over there.
Listen, just reach out to us on our new website, hifranchise.com, and we'll be happy to talk with you anytime.
Great. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. And come back again when we get further along in your journey and we could touch base with you. All right?
We'll do. Thanks so much, gentlemen.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, that was fun. I love when companies are getting revived and re-energized and figuring out a brand new focus, Anthony.
Yeah, and listen, you have to be transparent in today's market. You've got to be transparent with owners. You got to tell them the good, the bad, and the ugly. And where hotel companies get into trouble is when we try to hide things from them, or we try to say you're right when they're really not right. There's ways of saying it, and there's ways of managing that relationship. And we just got to get the owners and the brands and the management companies to be one and to come together, because at the end of the day, we can have disagreements, we can have arguments, we can some days not like each other. But at the end of the day, when we're shuffling things around, general manager, don't tell the owner, or owner, don't tell the brand, or everybody. I've been in so many different situations where everybody's trying to like shuffle things around without telling the other party. And that's when we get into trouble. So when you have brands like this, where you're closer to the owner, just be transparent and it'll make it work. And you know what? You may have to tell the owner, close the hotel so the hotel doesn't work, right?
Right. That is right. But one thing that might make those hotels work, and Anthony, this is one of my classic segues.
I already feel it, baby. I feel it.
Check out Bright Support, guys, because you might be able to lower your property taxes that you're paying on those hotels. You know, you didn't make as much money last year. Don't pay as much taxes this year. Book your free 30-minute consultation right now at brightsupport.net/hotels, or, of course, give them a call at 833-411-2233 and tell them No Vacancy sent you. All right, Anthony, we got that great show with Hit on Thursday. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up for today?
That's it, brother. Take us out.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you tomorrow. Remember, you've only got one life, so blaze on and
be kind to yourself.
See y'all tomorrow.